If you remember feverishly checking StarWars.com for an update, seeing CGI Yoda for the first time, and begging your parents for a Delta 7 with pop-out wings, then you were there when Attack of the Clones ruled the world. And in this video, we're going to take a look at all the pre-release buzz, the avalanche of merchandise, and the magical experience of being around during production, release, and the aftermath of Episode 2. But first, let's set the scene. The Phantom Menace was huge. Not only did the movie break box office records, it was also accompanied by the biggest merchandising campaign of all time. From toys to games to comics and everything in between. Jar Jar Lolly, anyone? But as big as it was, Episode 1 was only the beginning of a brand new Star Wars trilogy. And as soon as the movie was released, the hype machine began churning for Episode 2. This was the era of fan sites, which were the main source of rumors in those early days. My favorite being this Force.net page, which depicted Yoda with 2 blue sabers, devoted paragraphs speculating over a single Doug Chang sketch, and claimed that Colin Hanks would play Kidster. But the hype wasn't just limited to the World Wide Web. No, those early rumors spread like wildfire from office water coolers to school playgrounds. The rumors going around my school were that the Clone Wars would be fought against evil clone Jedi, so every Jedi would have an evil clone variant like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And there would be a blue Darth Maul clone who would join the good guys. This Episode 1 cover variant probably had something to do with starting that one. In making this video, I was curious to find out if the situation was the same in playgrounds across the pond. And so I invited fellow prequel enjoyer Evan Prince to share his experiences during those early days of Episode 2 rumors.
I was only 6 years old when Attack of the Clones released, but I actually remember a surprising amount of what it all felt like back then. I can remember the fact that I managed to see it 3 different times when it was in theaters. I can remember going into a mall with my mom after having seen it, at which time she bought me one of those toy lightsabers. It was a replica of Qui-Gon's. And of course, I also remember how many rumors there were going around online, believe it or not. I don't even know how I recall this, but my mom, brother, and I were looking up leaks for the film online, and there were people convinced that Episode 2 was going to open on a shot of Boss Nass yelling the word war. You know, because Episode 1 ends with him yelling peace. Obviously that wasn't the case, but this was just one of so many. Flandrew and I have looked over some of the things people thought were going to happen in this movie, and I mean, people really thought Captain Panaka might become Boba Fett. Can you imagine? Speaking of Fett, there were all kinds of rumors about Fett's involvement, of course because Fett was a major part of the film, but mainly in the form of his father we knew nothing about at the time named Jango. There was speculation Fett might be played by Jet Li, and even that Mandalorians were set to play a major role somehow. A lot of the rumors seemed to believe the film would involve Mandalorians in some capacity, which is funny how popular the concept has been for so long despite how often what a Mandalorian even is gets changed in retcon. Then of course there were all kinds of casting rumors about who was to play the older depiction of Anakin, with Leonardo DiCaprio's name being thrown around and even Christian Bale.
You know, it's ironic, but a casting rumor that actually ended up coming true was the inclusion of the boy band NSYNC in the movie. A few of the members have actually confirmed that they were set to appear as Jedi during the Geonosis battle, however that footage was cut from the final film. And speaking of filming, Lucas would begin principal photography on Episode 2 in the summer of 2000 in Australia. Realizing that there was an insatiable appetite for Episode 2 info, George would use his own website to build hype by releasing making-of content whilst the movie was still being shot. It all started with the series called Episode 2 Select, a collection of behind-the-scenes photos which were uploaded periodically. These photos would often be quite obscure and provided with no context. In turn, fueling even more speculation. The first to be uploaded was this one of Anakin breaking the sound barrier, and the last being this one of Mace Windu thinking about his mortgage. I'm also pretty sure that this post, dated September of 2000, was the very first glimpse we ever got of Jango Fett. Around this time, StarWars.com would also start releasing a series of on-location shorts hosted by Ahmed Best.
I'm sure everybody on the web wants to know, how much can you tell us about what's going on in Episode 2?
I can tell you that it's Episode 2. It comes after Episode 1, and then after this will be Episode 3, which hasn't been made yet, and then Episode 4, 5, and 6, which are all finished.
The series would run from August all the way to February of 2000 and consisted of Ahmed interviewing cast and crew in glorious 140p. The highlights of this series included George Lucas eating lunch, Hayden drinking juice, and an interview with Padme's mum, who'd end up getting cut out of the final movie.
I'm absolutely stoked to be doing Star Wars.
She's stoked to be doing Star Wars.
Lucasfilm looked to keep the momentum going into 2001 by releasing a series of more professional-looking web docs which delve deeper into the production of the movie, giving fans the first real look at characters, environments, and designs. There were 12 episodes released from March of 2001 all the way to the movie's release in May of 2002. And I absolutely love these web docs. The highlights for me were Tim Morrison dancing in the rain, Sam Jackson asking about getting a purple saber color, and of course Nick Gillard dissing R4 and then paying for it.
R4 is really an R2 painted red, isn't it?
Careful what you're saying about R4, because you can get bopped on the head real quick.
Back in 2001, I distinctly remember sneaking onto my dad's computer in the evenings and punching up StarWars.com/episode-II. And this page will forever be burnt into my brain. Who else remembers hovering the mouse over episode 3 every time hoping for a hyperlink to materialize? In August of 2001, Lucasfilm would announce the official title for episode 2.
Oh, what was it? What was it? Was it?
Attack of the Clones.
Is that real?
Yes. What do you think about that?
I don't know about that.
And in November, they would release the teaser trailer. This one caught me completely off guard. I was in the cinema about to watch Monsters Inc. and then suddenly I heard it. From that point on, the episode 2 promotional machine went into high gear. Remember the poster which had Anakin with a red lightsaber? Why would you do that to us impressionable kids, George? Speaking of saber colors, this movie had some interesting promo shoots with some really trippy colors. And why is Anakin's saber black and made out of rubber? But of course, the ultimate promotional vehicle for any blockbuster of that time was merchandise. And you knew a movie was big when it had its own Toys R Us catalog. Okay, it was more of a flyer, but look at all this stuff. We've got the trading cards, the water maze, the chess, the board game, whatever the hell this is, a Starfighter game, a Pokédex, and the lightsaber duel game. Look, I've still got mine, and oh my god, it still works from the original batteries. I promise this is not a bit. Look, it's still got the Kodak AA's which was supposed to expire in 2008. Another super popular toy was the Delta Starfighter. Who else remembers seeing this ad spam during every Cartoon Network ad break in spring of 2002?
Slave 1 launches a sneak attack. Your Jedi Starfighter blasts from flight to fight mode and fires, but Django escapes. As Obi-Wan Kenobi used force-flipping action to leap into battle. But Darth Tyrannus is no pushover. Jango Fett takes out Mace Windu. You can use the Force to summon a lightsaber into Obi-Wan's hand. Missile deflected. When the massive Reek charges in with its stomping attack, Anakin strikes back with dual lightsabers. With Star Wars Episode 2 action figures, the Force is in your hands. A galaxy of beasts, vehicles, and action figures, each sold separately.
This ad got me so hyped that I was actually disappointed the Starfighter didn't go into attack mode in the movie. Ironically enough, this toy would actually predict the design of the Jedi Starfighter in the next movie. Also, look at all the small print text the lawyers made them put in. Flipping Jedi sometimes fall. Flipping takes practice. Also, this is the angriest I've ever seen Mace Windu. They must have taken the sculpt from another Sam Jackson movie. Now, unlike Episode 1, there was no specific action figure line for Attack of the Clones. Instead, it came as part of the Saga line, which included some characters from the original trilogy, but still had a major focus on Episode 2. Of course, you had your Anakins, your Obi-Wans, and your Count Dooku's. But you also had such fan favorites as the Dinosaur Jedi that gets whacked by Jango, ugly alien Padawan children, giant hands Palpatine, Mace trying to pass a kidney stone, Obi-Wan in a fur coat, who's depressed, Ahmed Best, the Coruscant drug dealer, Obi-Wan while he's getting drunk with a piece of bar accessory, and of course no action figure line would be complete without a space stripper. Also, does anyone know why they made Padme look like the lady from Killers of the Flower Moon? Now, this particular Mace was actually part of a later line of saber combat figures with handles coming out of their back.
Star Wars. All new action figures keep on coming. Anakin slashes in on his speeder bike. New flying action R2-D2 escapes, while Mace and Obi-Wan battle below. The galaxy is yours. Star Wars. Each sold separately in stores now.
Following on from the success of the Episode 1 sets, Attack of the Clones would also get a dedicated LEGO line. Remember that ad when all the characters get sucked into the void?
You
charge you get when you and the Jedis are facing down the dark side? You're about to find out. You can discover the LEGO Star Wars Episode 2 collection. Now you can master a different kind of force. 'Cause with LEGO, when you make it, you feel it.
These sets included Jedi Duel, Tusken Raider Encounter. You know, for a guy who's just lost his mother, Anakin sure looks peppy. Same with the Bounty Hunter Pursuit. I love being in mortal danger, Anakin. We've got the Slave One, the Republic Gunship, a LEGO Technic Django and Super Battle Droid, and my favorite, the Jedi Starfighter. I love this set so much I actually bought the updated version just to compare, and I'll be honest, I think the original one still holds up. Of course, Episode 2 merchandise went beyond just the action figures and toys. We also got t-shirts, a visual dictionary, playing cards, clocks, mouse pads, birthday cards, lunch boxes, socks, plus a bunch of brand partnerships like Go-Gurt and Doritos. Now, Episode 2 would actually come out a week after that season's other blockbuster, Spider-Man. And like many kids my age, I was a huge Spider-Man fan, mainly thanks to the 90s animated series. So May of 2002 was an absolutely incredible month. Actually, many of the things that came out in 2002 in general are responsible for me starting this channel. But back to Attack of the Clones, unfortunately my parents only took me to see the movie once during its theatrical run. Luckily, there was plenty of supplementary material in addition to toys to keep me engaged in the world. We had a number of books from Del Rey such as Approaching Storm, a prequel novel which followed Obi-Wan, Anakin, Luminara, and Barriss Offee right before the events of the movie. There was also a trilogy of Boba Fett Jr. novels, a junior novelization of the movie, and a more adult novelization by R.A. Salvatore. Attack of the Clones also saw a number of tie-in comics from Dark Horse, starting with the movie adaptation. This one still had that 90s style with loads of black shading. Hey, you think that maybe Palpatine isn't such a good guy. Also, Dex is terrifying in this one, but not as terrifying as Jocasta Nu. Also, I really like how the artist presented the Tusken Raider sequence, but why does Anakin look like Ted Danson in this one frame? Look, even Dooku thinks it's sus. And so, as the Clone Wars engulfed the galaxy, Chancellor Palpatine wonders, did I leave the oven on? In addition to the movie tie-in, Dark Horse would also publish a Jango Fett prequel series, along with a Jedi series which focused on 6 specific characters from the movie. And of course, there were the video games. 2002 alone saw 6 Attack of the Clone tie-in games. Now, a few years back, I did make a video covering and comparing all those games. Click the banner at the top to see it, which is why I'm only going to briefly go over them in this video. We had Bounty Hunter, a third-person action-adventure game which was set a decade before Episode 2 and told the origin of how Jango became the host for the Clone Army. Plus, you could use a flamethrower on random civilians. Galactic Battlegrounds Clone Campaigns was a Clone Wars-based expansion for the PC RTS game which came out a year prior. Attack of the Clones for the Game Boy Advance was a pretty standard action side-scroller which followed the events of the movie. The Clone Wars was a vehicular combat game set a few weeks after the events of the movie and saw Anakin and Obi-Wan partake in the earliest battles of the Clone Wars. This game was developed by Pandemic and would go on to lay the groundwork for the original Battlefront games. There was also Jedi Starfighter, a sequel to the 2001 game, this time putting the player in the cockpit of the Delta 7 piloted by Adi Gallia in a story set before and during Episode 2. And finally, we had New Droid Army for the Game Boy Advance, an isometric action game which follows Anakin shortly after the events of the movie, which ends with him killing Dooku. Wait, what? 2002 would end with a home video release of Attack of the Clones in November, complete with this bizarre ad.
This holiday, Buddha Man, Yoda Man. When you can bring home the ultimate Jedi Master in the biggest lightsaber-wielding adventure ever. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Yoda the Man, available on DVD and VHS, rated PG.
Just like its predecessor, the DVD version was packed with a ton of behind-the-scenes special features. Now, I'm saying all these things retrospectively because I wouldn't actually get the Episode 2 DVD until a few years later. Back in 2002, I got the VHS, which came with this 6-minute long Star Wars Connection shorts hosted by R2 and 3PO. This segment was meant to give an overview of the entire saga up to that point, even though there was still a part missing.
But tragically, he turned to the dark side and became Darth Vader.
2003 would see the introduction of the Clone Wars multimedia project. This was a clever attempt to bridge the gap between episode 2 and 3 by telling the story of the Clone Wars in real time, both in universe and real life chronology. This project included Clone Wars comics, novels, and of course the Cartoon Network micro-series. The first season was made up of 3-minute shorts, which would be repeated every day in November of 2003 between shows on Cartoon Network. Now, being a big fan of Dexter's Lab, I really loved the look of the show. Plus, it gave us the very first glimpse at General Grievous. R.I.P. Shaggy. The micro-series would have a bunch of tie-in action figures, but there were actually 2 lines released, an animated style line and a realistic style line.
Star Wars, new Clone Wars series. We got the Clone War ass. Latest news from the battlefront where General Kenobi and the ARC Trooper face off with droid forces. New on the scene is the dreaded bounty hunter Dirge, with hail-fire droids at his command. Yoda calls for more firepower, and adds Anakin Skywalker to the rescue in his new custom starfighter. Direct hit, the battle for the galaxy is in your hands. Star Wars, new Clone Wars series, each sold separately, some assembly required.
That's right, this is the line that introduced such classics as Obi-Wan with a bandolier and a gun, Yoda in the action poncho, and Mace with giant forearms. But hey, at least we've got Anakin and his animated series Starfighter, which is just an amazing design. The Clone Wars multimedia project would continue into 2004, but by that time Lucasfilm would slowly begin to transition to episode 3, with a sneak peek in the original trilogy DVD release, followed by a poster and then teaser trailer. But that's a story for another video. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Please let me know if you'd like to see a video covering Revenge of the Sith and similar videos for other movies and franchises. Also, please leave a comment below with your memories of Attack of the Clones. What was your favorite piece of tie-in media, and what crazy rumors do you remember from back in the day? As always, thanks for watching. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to my existing patrons. If you've enjoyed this video, then please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.